Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very important event. My name is Paolo Fonschira. I have been the chair of political science and international relations for several years at Bay Atlantic University. Now we have a very able and capable successor who's not here with us today, but I'm also serving as president of the Global Policy Institute. For those of you who may not be familiar, I'm sure many of you have been here before because we've hosted these events already twice, I believe, before. But for those of you who may not be familiar, this is a private nonprofit university, Bay Atlantic University, with a special focus on business, social sciences, and also data analytics and IT and many other interesting degrees, both undergraduate and master's programs. Again, I cannot really speak to the IT sector because it's not my specialty, but it's thriving. There are lots of students. We have, I don't know how many nationalities represented here. It's a very cosmopolitan student body. I think, at least the last time I looked, maybe 40 nations are represented here. And so we are very keen on opening our doors to organizations that are work in this space of social science and the like. Obviously, I don't need to explain to this audience that government relations, lobbying, advocacy are part of the physiology of democracies. This is how things work. We may like certain parts of it and maybe not like some other parts of it. Certainly, I can just make this notation, and I don't speak as an expert, but we know that here in Washington, D.C., there has been literally an explosion of the lobbying industry in the last 10, 15 years. Again, this is not a new invention. That people know that lobbying, the term lobbying, apparently, according to legend, was created back then in the 19th century when people were, trying to meet the president, and they would say, okay, you can sit here in the lobby, And so the lobbyists were those who were there. That's legend. Some people say it's true, some people say it's not true, whatever. But that's legend that says how the term lobbying came about. And that's really basically advocacy and, stemming from the US Constitution, the right to petition. I mean, for those of you who like American constitutional history and whatnot. The reality is that this is an integral part of the functioning of our democracy. And as I said, some people may like it, some may not like it. And of course, this approach to this kind of liaison, if you wish, between civil society, economic interests, advocacy groups, and elected leaders, now it's bread and butter. It's here in America, it's in Latin America, it's in Europe, it's in Eastern Europe, it's everywhere, at least in democracies. I'm not going to speak about countries where they have different political systems. And so I think this is very important, and therefore an opportunity like this one, like this event convened by my good friend Katerina here, who is really an old friend and a seasoned practitioner in this craft or art or science, whatever we want to call it. She really knows a lot, and she's been passionate about teaching or spreading knowledge or understanding best practices and new trends. I think this is important, and I think this is the reason why all of you are here today, and also I'm recognizing for those of you who are joining us online from different parts of the world. So that shows that there's an international interest and focus on all this. And so I really hope that this will be enlightening and interesting and productive for all of you. As previous events that we had the pleasure of hosting last year and the previous year. And so without further ado, let me turn the mic to Katarina, who will take it from here, and I'll see you in a bit.
Yes, thank you, Paolo. Now I will show to you some presentation about our IGAPA community, and if Valerie can help me to show this presentation, will be great. And then we will dive in to the first panel, which will devoted to first part of our work. It's campaign management practices. To talk about IGAPA community, it's a community which long time existing and which was starting generally more from European professionals who do government relations and campaign management. And as you know, in some European countries, it was pretty the same people. So on elections, they was organized elections and election work, and after they was, selling and organizing government relations services and lobbying. And even it's the same people who create from political management standpoint also lobbying industry in their country. So, for example, our members from Slovenia, who was speakers, I think, 5 forums, and you can find this information on the website of IGAPA.net and also YouTube of IGAPA.net. They create completely in those country government relations industry, and the same in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, Ghana, and Mexico. So it's pretty interesting how people move from campaign management practice to government relations practice, and how they create also new industries in some countries. Also, role of IGAPA community, it's a very practical role. So of course we give educational issue, like what is government relations, how it works, how work best campaign management practices, but most of all it's community for people who can cooperate and generally to earn money together. So usually, of course, as basic members was from Geneva, Brussels, Strasbourg, and Washington DC, it was people who was searching for contractors in other countries. For example, they were searching for contractors in Kazakhstan, in Slovenia, in Ukraine to do some government relations work in those countries. And it's pretty tough if, for example, like we have one client with whom we work in different Eastern European countries. So that's why, it's too much of me. Too much of me. Thank you. So that's why it's very practical community where you can say, hey, how we can cooperate together, how we can make money together. And we haven't aimed to collect just people to do events for events. We want these people to cooperate, and really some matchmaking from our members. It's worked more than 10 years, even what I know, when people cooperate on some practical stuff. If talking on government relations, it's usually, or for example, Americans who search contractors in different countries, or other way, it can be some people from African countries or from Latin American countries who interested in doing lobbying here, or who interested in hiring most, best quality of political management for their countries. So, for example, people who want to build new political forces or who want to build democracy in their countries, they won't usually work with British people or Americans or people from Europe to have the best practices in those countries, because sometimes, for example, in post-Soviet Union sector, we just haven't this practice how to build normal political parties, and sometimes they want to search somebody not too theoretical, and not discuss Arab theorem, but to make this party happen now. So that's why I want to make a point that IGAPA community is very practical community, and it's generally our main issues what we're doing. So we organize annual government relations forum, we organize seminars and webinars with practical, issues and professionals. We do social events, and we organize this year pretty much like networking events. We do some research on the market and also advocacy projects, as I mentioned, to create some new profession in countries. For example, we lobbying for lobbying law in more than 5 countries last 5 years. So generally, we create in those countries as community new lobbying law and create new multi-billion, market in those countries, which is regulated now and which is pretty interesting experience. Also, if we are moving forward, our forums last year held here in Washington, D.C., but before we gather a pretty big crowd in Kiev, Ukraine, in Istanbul, Turkey, Brussels, Strasbourg, and honestly, it was a little easier because now pretty tough situation with visa issues here in the United States, all these immigration messages from campaigning now. So that's why a lot of people will join on Zoom, but not in person, and we hope that next year they finally came to the United States. Also, after this overview, I want to, I want to pay attention to some numbers of campaign management market. So how much does it cost in the United States, and some numbers of lobbying market to understand what we will talking about and why IGAPA it's about practical issues. Till we can see this presentation with numbers from markets, I also can introduce a little bit myself. I represent company SAC Group, which is partner here, and generally, of course, we do campaign management and government relations work, and generally it's also my profession to be campaign manager and government relations professionals, and we represent a lot international clients here in Washington, D.C., and also in Brussels for people who want to work with European Parliament and European Commission. And we have a lot of practice of creating big political projects and even new political force in Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Africa. So it's about my background. I also finished a lot of fancy programs in Stanford and Yale, I also have a lot of practical experience. So we'll be happy to chat with other professionals from different countries, and happy to be coordinator of IGAPA here in Washington, D.C. I will be with you today till our evening program, which also available on our website. Okay, so now let's look what we will discuss today. First part of our forum will be about elections and elections trends. And here it's new mayor of New York. And of course, we will discuss some about voting in New York and about his viral practices. We also have speakers who have previously worked in New York, so let's see what they think about viral campaign of Mandami. Also, if we look to the numbers, and if we go moving forward in this presentation, we can see also numbers of money which go to every lobbying contract in United States, and also of foreign lobbying in United States. So for me also was surprising that not every political party and every government knows that they must register FARA as a foreign agents here in United States, and they can be effective in getting more American support or more money, but they must do it by the book. So also part of our education is to educate these people how they must do lobbying here in United States. So also we will discuss election trend not only in United States but also in European countries, which put some type of politicians and some type of messaging also to European Parliament, of course, because usually people in European Parliament it's members of local political parties, and of course we will discuss more and more issue about polarization. We can move a little faster with this presentation. our people who in charge of presentations in Europe. So, okay. Of course, we will discuss election trends and disinformation and role of IE, because American Association of Political Managers now have new regulation of IE use and deepfakes. And last year we was discussing it with Mr. Millman, who was one of the biggest, campaign manager and political scientist here. Unfortunately, he not with us this year. He in better place now, but we will connect this discussion also this year and also some pooling materials on that. Next slide. Next slide. It's a slide about money move to lobbying in Europe. It can look like small amount of money, but one more time, in Europe, you can register your lobbying and you can not register your lobbying. So as you see, it's mostly American company who, in their compliance, they register lobbying in Europe, but a lot of foreign actors also do it, think tank work, analytical work, media work, even sometimes crypto or cash, which not legal methods. But as you see, it's big gap between market in Europe and United States. So let's discuss also, is their regulation better or maybe worse than regulation in United States. Let's moving forward. The same about energy sector in Europe. So Shell spent less. And let's move to some numbers for United States. It's billions, so it's more interesting to discuss. Okay, so it's also some trending spendings of lobbyists of big firm, and also of some structures like U.S. Chamber of Commerce, National Association of Realtors, American Hospital Association, and as you see, it's also connect what messages we have on elections and how many these sectors spend for their lobbying this year. So as you see, usually every big organization, business organization, spend more than 20 million a year for lobbying. And also, as we see, every company spends more than $5 million for lobbying in their sector. So pretty big market for us, pretty big pie. Let's discuss that. And also, if we can see main contributors of foreign lobbying who register in FARA, it will be government of China, government of Israel, and also, which is interesting, some non-profits. Like one Russian non-profit who spent more than $100 million officially in FARA, but they registered non-profit, which is interesting. Also, we see some trends in big corporations and what they lobbying in IT sector, and I want also to show this because it's the same issue which they work on with European Parliament and European Commission. And here it's example of Meta bills from their official disclosures and report. So also we'll discuss that. And here, it's international spending, as you see. Leader, it's also South Korea, Israel. So we'll discuss also, does it make impact directly to American aid, and of course these issues on elections. So let's moving forward with all these issues to discuss with my first panel, and I want to invite to the stage Mr. Jason Shelton, Mr. Jason, Mr. Michael Arnaud, and I think we also have Anna Varava online, so if you're online, also please connect here. One more time, we will send all these presentations to you if you want to check all these numbers and to inspire in your work, will be great. Okay, so let me introduce our speakers. Jason is senior public sector leader and legal professional with pretty intensive experience in governance, federal administration, and leadership. What is interesting that Jason was mayor of Tupelo, Mississippi, and previously served as regional administrator is U.S. General Services Administration (GSA) during Biden-Harris administration. So why we invite also Mr. Shelton, because his campaign and his work pretty interesting as democratic ward in pretty red state. So we'll discuss with him his experience, but also his experience after work in GSA. And Michael, he is a prominent political strategist, and he did a lot of international campaigning and also campaigning here in United States, included work in New York for Mr. Bloomberg. So we will discuss also trends here, and he represents Arno Political Consultants, US based firm who also work on campaign management. And Anna Barava, international business strategist, and she work with image and image making for politicians, but she, before starting her career, also in big fashion, and we'll discuss is like this experience also was like more interesting than working with politicians. And also we have half an hour for this panel, so I ask my speakers to be pretty short, like 5-7 minutes. And I also I think introduce all this market, so I will ask questions of you. So let's start with question to all participants, and of course it's question about artificial intelligence, because everybody discuss artificial intelligence. So let's start our conference with that. So what do you think it's like was main issue of structural transformation of elections and elections practices? What is main trends? And what part artificial intelligence have in these trends? So Michael, maybe you can start with all your experience.
I actually anticipated this.
It was a first question in moderation plan, no secrets, about global trends.
No,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because we all talk about artificial intelligence as if it's this new tool, and we've been talking about new tools as long as I can ever remember, about new tools in politics, going back to radio and TV being the next biggest thing. The thing about AI, though, in politics, she mentioned a little bit about deepfakes and even some of the data sharing that is far more limited in places like Europe than it is here in the US. But the thing we need to remember about AI is it's here right now, and it will affect the outcome of elections. And it'll do so simply because, how many of you have been on Twitter in the last couple of days, and there's a question that says, Grok, is this true, what is being said? Well, that's an AI answer that's being given, and I even decided to ask ChatGPT about their role in AI in elections, and I'm going to quote them because I think it's interesting. She says, we don't, well, I call it cheap. I get my ChatGPT.
Okay.
Easier to talk to. She said that we talk about AI as if it's a tool, but it's not neutral and it's not objective. It's built on models, on training data, on assumptions, and ultimately on human inputs. And that means it used the word perspective, but I'm going to use the word bias instead. So when you type in any question, so it used to be we all sat around sat around our dining room table and talked about upcoming elections, who you're going to vote for, what are your reasons and such. We always had pretty vibrant conversations in my family. Now I think we turn too often to, whether it's AI or it's just the internet, which is of course driven by AI, and ask, who should I vote for? Who's best on the economy? You're not getting an unfiltered answer. You're not getting a neutral answer. You're getting something that did a lot of curating for you. It searched multiple different sites and came up with an answer, but an answer that it was modeled and trained for. But just so we don't freak out about that entirely, everybody's going to figure out how to use AI to whether it's a data-driven campaign or whether it's just you. I mean, I use AI in very simple ways even. I do a lot of ballot issues and we have a lot of signatures we have to verify. I now verify them using an AI platform. It only has about a 70% effectiveness to it, but better than paying a human to do it. It takes me 2 minutes as opposed to several days to do that. But in terms of how we're gonna use it in our messaging for candidate campaigns or ballot issue campaigns or advocacy campaigns, that's all here right now and it's all happening right now. And I think it's one of the biggest things that consultants are trying to figure out how to make the best use of in their messaging. Because they know that there's an inherent bias, even though it's not supposed to technically be a biased tool.
But some issues artificial intelligence can't do. For example, it's communication with clients or, you know, some inner communication, because some people said that, oh, it's end of campaign management work because you can ask ChatGPT about like image or about, I don't know, even messages. But is it true on my point of view? No, but what do you think?
I wrote something the other day, an advocacy program, or an advocacy letter. And I said, I put it in a ChatGPT and I said, change it to give me good SEO words to use, those search engine optimization words to use. It didn't change too much of what was written, but it kind of reformatted where to put things. So I used an AI to give me better search results when it goes online. That's a really simple version for it. Actually, one way is I buy a lot of material for a lot of campaigns, like shirts, hats, things like that. I get AI to order it for different countries because it knows how to find the best prices. I don't have to hire somebody to look for the best prices anymore. I've got it on my phone. So it's in big ways and it's in little ways. Like I say, we're using it for voter file curation, and it's probably saved me 50% of the cost on what I used to have humans do. COVID had a role in that too, of course. I used to have 100 people in a room doing work. Then it got to a point where COVID, we had to close the office down, and then nobody wanted to come back in the office, and they want to work outside remotely. So even AI can be used in the work that they do, but I don't have 100 people anymore. I've got about 20. So it displaced 80 people that did the same amount of work that I used to do, but I used an AI platform to do it instead. And honestly, if you think about the way AI works, it's a very simple thing. I can go to a voter file right now and I can say, give me all of female voters under 35 in this city with this zip code, and it'll produce that. That's all I'm doing with AI is asking them to write that formula for me. But I can be a lot more exacting. I can get a lot more detailed about very minute things. And again, this is not the case in Europe, but we can even track where voters go now via cell phone data, and that's all driven by AI.
It's the Black Mirror, Cyrus, you know. Jason, what about your experience? Because I saw that Democrats generally more savvy in different like IT products. So generally Democrats have much better volunteer organizing and also canvassing platforms on my point of view than Republicans now. But how you use artificial intelligence and maybe other IT solution in your political work before and your political work now, and maybe a little bit about artificial intelligence in government administration?
We live in a world where can't even come on a panel without your phone. We are connected at the hip with our technology, our device. We're always on it. And I think what Michael was speaking to was very well stated. That information, the disinformation, how we obtain knowledge is all impacted by the algorithm and whoever's writing these programs. So both the Democrats and the Republicans are using it.
Jason,
AI
we're always
AI.
happy to see you in person, not by Zoom, only in person.
So, but yeah, the Democrats are using it, but the Republicans are too. You see it used a little differently of what motivates the different parties. You know, the kind of the fear and the anger seems to motivate the right a little bit more, where, you know, the idealism, the better world stuff motivates the Democrats a little more. So you see that in everything that we do, and again, you're going to continue to see that, you know, when you search for anything on social media, the internet, you know, you start seeing those ads pop up almost instantly on your social media feed. That same technology, those same tools are used in politics to kind of persuade your voters and your side. And so I think we're going to continue to see that, and it's very important. You know, I think now more than ever to tell people to look for multiple sources to get your news, to get your information, and make sure that you're actually getting fact-based information rather than an algorithm that's designed to sway your opinion.
Yeah, but we will discuss also disinformation in Europe, which, like on last Orban campaign, they just create this different, i.e., video tools, video about generally killing people, which was based on archetype of like Nazi soldier, and for general Joe and rural voter, it looked like real, and it wasn't mentioned anywhere that it was created by artificial intelligence. And of course, in the United States, it's a lot of regulation in professional communities. But really, if we talk about campaigning in social media, how you can make some difference on impact, because when it go to local county Facebook group from some not real Facebook page, how to make impact to that, because people saw, and even King Solomon wrote that what you saw with your eyes, it's with you all your time. So how you can really regulate that on next campaign?
That's coming for sure. The regulations, I mean, I think we'll have to. In one of my campaigns, for example, there was a fake news article that spread widely on Facebook and social media. We had to release a statement saying, that this is completely made up. This is truly fake news, not just saying that it's fake news. And we got traditional media involved to run articles in the newspaper that, this is a kind of a political hit job, not something that's real. But now, as you mentioned, the videos, the technology is just getting more and more sophisticated each and every day. And when you have, say if I'm running for mayor again and there's a video that's completely AI, me saying some outrageous things, you have to find a way to combat that. And that's the world we live in, and it certainly is going to have to be regulated. As far as that regulations now, I would need to do a little more research on that before I speak to it, because that's not something I've really studied. But the impact on political campaigns is going to be significant, and will have to be addressed.
It's one more business idea for advocacy if somebody wants to organize, like anti-deepfake advocacy. Okay, let's move to Anna. Anna, what about artificial intelligence in political imaging work? Because some people said that here in Washington, D.C., it's pretty the same as Paris, so it's like Hollywood for not fancy people, just for politicians. So can you talk a little bit about last campaign, also maybe about interesting images of last campaign, maybe about First Lady something, and also do you use artificial intelligence to make politicians like more prettier, and then we can test them on focus groups. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Talking about social media, recently I even saw that there are regulations that every image you produce, you need to mark that it is AI generated. So it can't be like, you produce without any mark. So now, I mean, on Instagram, it's a regulation now. I don't know yet about Facebook and any other tools, but it's really fair when you mark it if it's artificial intelligence generated or it's a real one, because the confusion is really big between the audience and the results and the consequences. Of course, it's huge if it's real or if it's not, and that's why to stop lots of fakes, there need to be regulations. Talking about image, of course you need, yes, of course, I will be fair, I use ChatGPT, but you need to have a great prompt. First of all, it can't substitute any human being, any brains, any experience, any knowledge. It could be very, it could be knowledge on surface, yeah, it could be something that is it's very light. It gives you, but it's not a proper version of what you want to have. You can't really produce an image and put like a person inside and say, okay, I need a political image that will work for this, and this. Okay, you need a prompt. You need to understand the person. You need to understand the psychology, the sociology, the audience, which market you work with. What you want to produce, and so on. It's impossible to do without a human being who is a real expert in that, because it's a combination of different disciplines and also knowledge and feeling about the person. Because only in human interaction you can feel. You can feel a person, what suits, what's the impression this or that person can produce, and what the results he or she can have. And yeah, you can use it as a helper, as a tool to find out, I don't know, where you can buy it, to find out, to have some comparison in between different images. Yes, but it's just a tool that will help you, but it's not a substitution at all.
Okay, Anna. So in every campaign, if we talk about, for example, lady candidates, it's pretty like limited archetypes which you can use for no, like for ladies in different countries. So usually it's Aetna, like vice lady, or like Artemis, like strong lady fighter, and more work in Europe. So is it like some other tools, for example, for female candidates? And what is the role of archetypes in image making? So is it really like, pretty standard stuff, or it also needs some creative work? So maybe also some examples from European campaigns, maybe, I don't know,
Yeah,
Meloni.
it can't be standard, because everyone is different, and to catch someone attention, to get this audience, to be liked by this audience, and to have the right effect, you need to be unique. Yeah, you need to have to be in a certain archetype, but unique. I worked with people in politics and in business, and you remember the image of Yulia Tymoshenko in Ukraine. Yeah, it was a very strong image based on Lesia Ukrainka. But Lesia Ukrainka is the only one who exists in the history of Ukraine. So you can't make the second one the same strong, and this is a standard. And you can't replicate it, you can't make the same, but a person wants to be as strong as it is. So first we need to understand, yeah, we can have these archetypes, we can have some features of them, but still we need to make a very individual image that will work for the purpose of the candidate, but also will reflect the personality. So look, I have the presentation. If I have time to show it a little bit later with the examples, I analyze the image of Mr. Donald Trump now, and the effect of image of Melania Trump, why they created such an image, and why she helped him, like in what he's doing from one point, and from the other one, why a lot of women like her, and why she's like a role model for lots of women around the world. And this is true. If you go on any social media, you know, there are so many people that, oh, I want to be like her. It's my role model. But it's not really an archetype, it's a style, but very individual style of her, but made for certain purposes. To help the general image and to, from one side, to show the classy woman, from the other one, to show the very trendy woman. So it works for different audiences, but works well.
Yeah, okay, next we have next 10 minutes for like next couple of questions. So it's interesting to show, and I also will pay attention. Anna was talking about Yulia Tymoshenko. It's like a famous Ukrainian politician, and she was like an archetype of motherland. So it's like white clothes, and it was working really by focus groups, because people in rural area understand like lady as lady mother, you know, Demetra, and it's also was pretty specific hairstyle. So it's good example of working with female candidates. But if we compare with United States campaigns, here candidates have different image. So maybe Michael can talk a little bit about like also imaging, and can you do this in standard way? You know, this archetype, this hero journey in biography, and also question to you, of course, about like voter segmentation, because a lot of people on last conferences was discussed, oh, it's so horrible what Cambridge Analytica doing, like with this micro-targeting and, you know, every message to every type of personality. But on my point of view, it wasn't super new. And of course, you have some experience working here, and if you can give some international experience and also some no, your thoughts maybe from New York campaign and from New York campaign, it will be very helpful. And we have for all speakers next 10 minutes to discuss all trends for all these years. It's tough.
Okay, well, so I can address a little bit about cult of personality, or personality, a large personality, as a candidate. I was working with Arnold Schwarzenegger when he began his political career, and he was very passionate about when after he finished school, when he grew up in Austria, he always had athletic things that he did, and he felt that kept him out of trouble. So he was very focused on creating an issue campaign for himself about after-school sports programs for youth, keeping them busy. And so I went there to watch him launch this, and he had to give a speech. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy for him. He's an actor. He knows about how to read a script. He was terrible. He was just absolutely terrible. He was very just reading. Well, he didn't write it, but he was just reading it, very boring. And I had secondhand embarrassment for him. I thought, well, this is going to be a very short campaign. And then afterwards, the press started asking him questions. And because he was so passionate about this idea, he was fantastic. He was really incredible. Of course, we did this at a school. So it was a local school in Sacramento, California. And there were a bunch of police cars out in front of the school. that gets noticed a little bit by the neighbors. So after we left, Arnold Schwarzenegger walked out, and everybody in the neighborhood had been coming up looking at the police cars. They spot Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I've never seen a reaction like this to any politician. 50 people just ran to him. And most politicians I know would kind of like get their bodyguards to block it. He just put his arms out, let kids jump on him, taking hugs and all that. That was just his personality, and he always was that way. You know, it's interesting, we talk about Donald Trump on a different extreme like that he has his way with his nicknames, and he has his way of putting people down, not too classy the way he does it. I always thought of the most difficult candidate to face Donald Trump would have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he would have had just his little way of knowing how to put Donald Trump down. Because I watched him do it many times. He was just really good at it. It would have been an interesting battle. Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, can't run in the US for president. But so, yeah, in Europe, there's lots of people. In France, I remember Sarkozy was really helped a lot by that school bomb that was planted, where he rushed in and saved a kid. That was a little bit staged, just so you know, but it was filmed by the news and it got on TV, and it helped cement him as a softer individual, because the presentation about Sarkozy was he was just a prosecutor, he was just a tough guy. This made him look like saving little kids. You can't, saving kids and puppies, those are the two best things you can do for a candidate. And then
And also kissing kids. Small
kittens work, yeah. I don't like kittens.
A little cliche, but still works, yeah.
Koshka.
Yeah.
Uh,
And about micro-targeting. So what about micro-targeting? Even in the United States, because here are much more data which you can get about water, and it's pretty legal to do that.
Yeah, well, and even to go back a little bit to your other point about things that happen with AI uses of changing images, planting fake stories, a lot of that does not come from the United States. It comes from AI bots, it comes from troll factories in different countries. We all know a particular country that had a huge troll factory. And so in terms of how we can guard against that or make laws against that in the future, we can't control what goes on in different countries very easily, and we can't really control what happens on the internet that easily. So it's a real problem, and I don't have a very good answer for it. In terms of voter segmentation, that's all changing now via AI as well. But I'll talk a little bit about, because I think it's important that we all don't just focus on AI, that we go back to some of the tools. You mentioned very briefly that Republicans did get out to vote very well this last election. They actually, this had always been the strength of Democrats. They had labor unions, they had other advocate groups that were very tied into them. Republicans didn't have it. They were connected to Chamber of Commerce, and you weren't gonna see, the owner of Procter & Gamble out there knocking on doors on behalf of a candidate. But they did a really good job, and it started really in 2016 when they signed people up for events to go watch Trump speak. You had to give your name, your address, your phone number, and your email address in order to even get a ticket. That was a very great database to use, because you had somebody that you could assume was interested in seeing Trump, and that you had information that isn't readily available always, like an email address, a phone number that, of course, they use now again with you can now do an advertisement to people who are hitting certain cell towers in our country. There are rules against that in Europe, but in our country you can say, I need a message to go out to 22101, and boom, hits everybody that hits those cell towers in that area. So voter segmenting in that regard is, a thing of the future. Well, it's a thing of AI, it's gonna be driven by that. I still like the old-fashioned way of knocking on doors. The first political campaign I was ever involved in was with Anatoly Sobchak, who wanted to be mayor of St. Petersburg. Well, it was Leningrad at the time. And he came to me at an event that I did a speech at in 1990 and said that he wanted to run for office. I hooked him up with Senator Bill Bradley, who was from New Jersey, who was on a campaign, and he was amazed that Bill Bradley knocked on so many doors, and that he also kept a little notebook. So anyone he ran into, he wrote a little note down about that particular person. And I even saw Bill Bradley say, "Oh yeah, I remember your son. Yeah, 10 years ago, he graduated right from Yale. He remembered everything because he wrote everything down." And Sobchak was very impressed by this, and he knocked on doors in St. Petersburg, which was something nobody had ever done before. And he was doing his campaign against what essentially was the Communist Party, who didn't really have an idea of a campaign other than, we're communists, you're gonna vote for us, and we're in charge.
Mm-hmm.
But Sobchak knocked on doors, and he would ask people, what's your biggest problem? They never said, what's the United States? We gotta get the SALT II treaty ratified. They said, no, it's this pothole out in front of my house. I can't park my car in front of my apartment right now. And he would say, his little notebook, he would say, okay, I'll hurry. He would say, I'm gonna get, if you elect me, I'm gonna get this fixed. Anyway, when he was elected, it was a very big surprise. The government that was in there before, they had to shut off the heat and the electricity to get him out of Smolny to let him go back in. But those are some things that I think we should all try to get back to. Don't let AI do all your work for you. Knock on doors. Get back to what we used to call retail politics. Where you're meeting people where they are, and where you can be emotional and show your value to them about it. Again, the Schwarzenegger example and this one about Sobchak, I think, are very good examples.
Thank you. I hope that they also will come back to canvassing, but not to take their political opponents from the windows, because canvassing and direct conversations always was much better idea. So I hope that they really will go to this step in next historical moments. So Jason, please, 2 minutes to you also about campaign practices now, and do you already take part maybe in some democratic campaigns? Because as I know, now it's a lot of points for Democrats, because people saw economy situation and they was voting for Trump because of economy situation, and now they even vote in Miami for Democrats because of economy situation. So do you involved in some campaign, and do you see some new tools for this campaign?
As far as new tools, I don't know that there are specifically new tools for the 2026 midterms. I am working on some Democratic campaigns in Mississippi. Of course, we're the underdogs and uphill climb, so to speak. But whether or not we'll have a blue wave this year, who knows? It looks that way now, but the campaigns are just getting started and just getting heated up. And, in politics, a month is just almost a lifetime, so to speak, in a campaign. Anything can happen. So, but two things quickly on the image. The image of the candidate is vital to the success of the campaign, and you have to play to your candidate's strength, and you try to maximize those strengths and then minimize whatever negative qualities that the candidate has. Every candidate has good qualities, and I'll be diplomatic, just areas where they could improve. And so every candidate is that way, and so we, working on the campaign, have to maximize the strength and minimize the weaknesses. As far as micro-targeting, that's just the world we live in, and that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier with the algorithms on social media. everything we do is tracked. When we use our credit card, that's tracked. When we do a search on Instagram or social media or on Google or Yahoo or whatever we use, and all of that information is used by companies to get your money, by politicians to get your votes, by whatever entity that can use that to reach you, they're going to do that. So it's just the world we live in, and I agree with Michael on knocking on doors, but I think to have a successful campaign, you have to do it all. You have to have the good candidate, you have to get out and show that you're working hard, and then you have to embrace technology and use that to your advantage the best you can in your campaign.
Thank you. As our company IT department said that if you not pay for a product, you a product. So, okay, and let's finish with 2 minutes, maybe only one example from Anna, something about beauty and political images of First Lady. So, Anna, if you can give to us only just one example for now, and next examples we can discuss maybe on our Zoom master classes, because we must move forward to Paulo's panel already. Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure. Let's move then to the slide where I will just briefly give you an example. I'm 100% aligned with what you're saying, with the human touch, with using the technologies, but use it in the right way. So the first impression that we have is like it is science. It's 7 seconds. In this we build impression, and that's how people understand and how people perceive us. In these seconds, we build trust, credibility, and interest. Just move please a little bit faster. So now first of all, to create a strong image in business and politics in any field, but we are talking now about politics and business. So the strategic image is an alignment of 3 main features or 3 main points: who you are, what's your audience, and what's your goal. And knowing all that, you can create a strong image that will work for you.
And if we talk about Melania, so what do you think is your
I'm here.
Yeah.
So first of all, the image is built on key elements like appearance, communication and behavior, reputation and media, and environment and association. So I will give you just a narrative example. Next please. How the image is created and what it says about the person. So let's have a very short case study. So core image is about power, dominance, wealth, and patriotism. And we also see how this person, how Donald Trump, how he behaves and how he presents himself, even with this "Make America Great Again." It's all the narrative is in his behavior and in how he really looks like. Next.
Mm-hmm. 1 minute, and because I think that it's an interesting presentation, but we have 1 minute for now, and then we can move it to separate seminar.
How we see that? So this is red tie. This is power, authority, and dominance, and American colors, direct communication, and strong positioning. So we see that the colors of American flag is in the image of Donald Trump in what he's wearing in his everyday, let's say, everyday show. Next one, we are moving, this is how important is the image, because we all remember this case, the first meeting of Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump, and the first story was, you don't have a suit. That was most important questions, and that resulted the communication. Because it is perceived on a certain level. You communicate on a certain level of conservatism when you are in politics or in serious business. Next.
But for Zelensky voter, it was work opposite way, so it's interesting case, because for Ukrainian voter, they think different, so it's also interesting. Okay, and last example. Mm-hmm.
Yes, last example is the second layer and how you can, let's say, integrate the first lady in the general, in the system with the political candidate of the president. So her role is elegance, modern classic, chic, control, and soft power. And so she softens a little bit that powerful and or authoritative and very direct image of the president. Next, please. And she balanced them. So this is a dual image. When Trump is power, Melania is elegance. And fashion, elegance, yes, and very attractive lady in the eyes of men and women both. Next. And here is the strategy when you can also soften and when you can shape perception and build emotional connection when you go into media and you show a personality as she's like a real person, not like a picture, a good looking, classic, very elegant, but who is she as a personality? That's why they created the documentary, and this is a tool to make a controlled narrative, emotional connection, audience expansion, and try to increase loyalty to the couple, and first of all to her, to the first lady, and then to the couple in general.
Thank you, Anna. And on next panel, Paolo will discuss with his speaker, does it work or no? And thank you for being with us on this panel. And I think we can do one more seminar with Anna to compare, her work on Vogue magazine and with politicians. It will be interesting. So Paolo, if you can represent your speakers, and thank you for joining our data and our panel. Thank you to our speaker, and thank you for listening my Eastern European accent.